going on with the damn Cybertruck? Is there ever really going to be a Cybertruck?
November 30th.
Yeah, sure. Okay. When did he announce the Cybertruck originally?
November 2019.
Okay. And he said 2 years it'll be here. Well, that didn't happen. So, yeah, November 30th is going to come and go. Whether or not there'll actually be a Cybertruck's another thing altogether.
There will.
But, okay.
There will. Yeah, I promise you there will.
Do you think, well, since we don't even know what it's going to cost yet, do you have any idea what it's going to sell for?
That's like the $1 trillion question. I have an idea. I do have an idea. The way I look at the Cybertruck costs is I look at Tesla's current offerings now and I put it against their peers. So I have this like graph. It's a dot plot. I do price on one axis and I do range on another axis. And I have the entire sedan market and the entire SUV market. I literally have every automaker's EV in multiple trims and multiple configurations, and I dot plot them.
Wow.
And what you notice with Tesla's cars is that they are consistently the cheapest in the segment or near the cheapest with the most range. And that's typically how, like, the Model 3 is like that for the, say, the midsize sedan luxury-ish EV market. The Model Y is like that for the midsize SUV luxury-ish EV market. The S and X are like that for the upper trim luxury, and then Lucid is sort of the outlier in that. If you're okay losing $500,000 per car, yeah.
Well, with the backing that they have,
yeah,
they are okay with that. So.
It's true. That's a lot of luxury right there for damn sure. Yeah. So now we have different types of pickup truck EVs that have been announced. So you have the Silverado EV, which we kind of know where the pricing is going to be at for the 4WT, which is their work truck. It's going to be about $80,000 for 450 miles of range. We know where the Fort Lightning is at. And then we can also use a comparison of, say, the Model 3 versus a Prius and a Model Y to a RAV4 to kind of understand what the premium is on the EV for the market that they're trying to sell to. And so the pricing that I'm coming up with is that they're going to have two trims. It's going to be the dual motor and the tri-motor. Okay. And the tri-motor is going to be performance. I believe the tri-motor will be under $80,000, which will take advantage of the federal EV tax credit of $7,500. And the dual motor, I think, will be somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000 starting.
Okay, yes. So let's call it 65 and say 79.9. That's not cheap.
It's not.
So do you think it will sell in the numbers that everybody has anticipated that it would? Let me phrase that by saying there's no middle ground when it comes to that truck. You either love it or you hate it. Okay. Yeah. Are there enough wealthy people who love it to spend the kind of money it's going to take for it to sell in the numbers that everybody anticipates it's going to sell in?
I think without a doubt. I think it's going to blow people's minds. I really do think so. And the reason why I say that is if you look at the Model Y, Tesla's Model Y, it will be the best-selling car on planet Earth by the end of this year. It's literally neck and neck with the RAV4. And the Model Y is 45% more expensive on average than the Toyota RAV4. And it's an EV. And so my question becomes, say 3-4 years ago when the Model Y was launched, did anyone ever think that the Tesla Model Y would be the best-selling car in the world?
Probably not, but its styling is not as oft-putting to as many people as that of the Cybertruck.
Do you think that the style will be that big of a deal in the pickup truck market?
I think anytime you're asking people to spend that kind of money, absolutely style matters. It has to be appealing, and it has to be appealing to a large percentage or the largest percentage of people. I personally don't think that the Cybertruck is, because it's so radical compared to everything else out there. Yes, people can be attracted to radical looking things. Salvador Dali certainly was. But I don't know that there's enough people to think that's so radical I've got to have it.
I disagree. I think about it the other way. I think the looks will grow on people because the cost benefit analysis for that vehicle is going to be so good that the looks will not matter. So the reason why I say that is if Tesla executes where it looks like they're going to execute, they're going to have a $65,000 pickup truck starting. So this is before the $7,500 credit, which will get it down to $57,500. That will have at least 300 to 350 miles of range starting, which for people that are looking to utilize a truck for, say, work purposes, where they are driving for less than 200 to 250 miles a day pulling a trailer, that the cost equation for that truck is going to be an absolute no-brainer. And then on top of that, you're also going to have a lot of people that are going to want to buy the truck because they just love Teslas. So there was a study that was done, I think it was Bloomberg, where they polled a bunch of current Tesla owners and a lot of current Tesla Model 3 owners, so the sedans. What's the car they're most looking forward to is the Cybertruck. It doesn't just have an appeal to just the pickup truck market, it has appeal to the entire EV market.
I get that, but
Yeah.
Do you think that most people who are buying a Model 3, which today starts at about 38 grand, are suddenly going to go, for another $30,000, I can get that Cybertruck? That's a big ask. As I would like to say, it's a big ass jump to go from 38 to 65.
But Tesla owners are very affluent on average. They're very affluent, so they can afford.
But at a certain point, they're not all going to be.
100%. 100% agree with you. But my argument is that the bigger pie is outside of the Tesla people. It's another thing, too, that no one has seen this in person yet. I've seen it in person 3 different times. Very few people have seen it in person since they've unveiled it, let's call it. It looks very different in person, Ray. I think once you look at it in person, you're going to change your mind.
Does it look svelte in person?
It looks absolutely stunning. It looks absolutely stunning. Take my word for it.
Okay. That would be like, say, you take a picture of me, okay, and but in
don't do this to yourself.
but in person, he looks like Brad Pitt. Oh,
I think you're going to be surprised. I honestly think pictures don't do the car justice. You know how some cars just look like crap in pictures and in person they look completely different? Like the Ioniq 6 is an example recently where in pictures it looks like the ugliest car I've ever seen in my life. And then in person it doesn't look too bad. The Cybertruck, it's because it's so flat. It's very hard to bring out the dimensionality of the truck and the curves. It has curves. You just don't see them in pictures. It doesn't capture it. Those that are super polarized by the look, I think will look at it and be like, damn, okay, that's actually much better looking than I thought. Let me say it another way. I think Tesla is going to be supply constrained for the decade for the Cybertruck.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they're also expecting it to take 18 months to actually be able to get up to the production levels that they would like to get to with the
Which
Cybertruck.
is normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But allegedly, there's 1 million reservations. How many of those do you think really go to the people that reserved them?
At least 80%. 80%, at least. So when the Model 3 first went into production, there was 500,000 reservations for the car.
Okay.
And the Model 3 ships about 500,000 units per year. So the reservation to car ratio is sort of like a proxy. Now, the key thing to keep in mind with the Cybertruck is that the reservation was $100 and Model 3 was $1,000, right? So people were willing to put in $1,000 for the Model 3 and they were 500,000. With the Cybertruck, it was $100, so it was $1 million. But theoretically, you can put in a factor that says, okay, if you were to take it up to 1,000, that list probably goes down to 500,000 as well, or maybe even 250.
Okay.
Right? But the numbers are there.
The only reason I ask is I remember when my former boss, Mr. Roger Penske, got involved with the smart car, the Smart for Two. He was going to be directly involved with the sale of the vehicle in this country through his dealerships. And I remember everybody was putting down $100 deposits to reserve their Smart for Two, or I put down my $100 deposit to reserve my Smart for Two Cabriolet. Okay. Yeah. The closer it got to actually being built, the further away I got from ever really wanting it. For $100, I could put a deposit down on something and see what the pricing is going to be. And then when I realized the pricing is going to be way more than what I was hoping for it to be, I'll just get my $100 back. Not that I want to say there's no value in $100, but there's no value in $100 on a $65,000 truck.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, some people will piss that away for lunch. I don't think, it's just me, and God knows I'm always wrong on most of my predictions.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I would be surprised if the number of people who left a reservation at $100 to the percentage of people that actually go through with it, I'm guessing it's going to be closer to 50%.
Okay.
But even if it's 50%,
it's 500,000 people.
Yeah, that's 500,000 trucks. I get that. But it's going to take a long time for them to be able to produce that 500,000 trucks.
For sure. I definitely understand where you're coming from. And I think there's something to be said for, hey, if you're too polarizing and if you're too off the wall, there is a chance that there's going to be a core demographic that you're trying to capture that's just not going to go for it because it just looks too crazy. Yeah. But I think the one thing that Tesla does really well is that they often create vehicles that people just want. because of the merit of the vehicle. Like the Model 3 and the Model Y, the S and the X, I would like to say that and think that the reason why people buy those cars is because they are amazing cars. And there's a reason why in the US, if you compare the 3 and the Y versus its competition, especially against EVs, they're selling way more than the rest of the auto market combined. And so the thought process becomes, why wouldn't the Cybertruck also be a great product that's going to sell way better than everybody else?
I would say this after having driven the Model Y. It's great software and great technology. The ride and the fit and finish left a lot to be desired, at least for the one that I drove.
What year was it?
I don't know. I think it was 3 years old, 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
I have like 43,000 miles on it. And there wasn't anything in there that didn't rattle, including the passengers. I was so impressed with the software. I was so impressed with the technology. I was not impressed at all with the ride and the fit and the finish. But that's just me. I mean, yes, there's a lot of people that you've probably heard me say it. The early adopters have adopted the EVs that they're going to adopt. EV sales have stagnated to a certain degree. They've kind of hit a plateau. GM's backing off some of what they were trying to do. Ford's cutting a shift at the Lightning facility. Maybe it's because they can't compete with Tesla. I don't know. But I think the bloom has come off the rose a little bit, if that makes any sense, when it comes to EVs.
I think there's multiple variables going on. I think there is something to be said about like legacy automakers definitely backing off. Like you said, GM in today's call, they're basically putting a pause on their EV plans, and they're trying to delay the Silverado EV, the Blazer EV, and all those guys until later, until they can get a little bit more profitable because of the whole UAW strike and whatever else. You also see Tesla's pricing came down dramatically for the year because what they claim is interest rates. Interest rates have gone up so high, it's become much more difficult to afford a car.
Yes.
And even though Tesla is working its way down the cost curve pretty effectively, the cheapest car is still $38,000. And that is not a cheap car. So they're still selling into a market, and like the Cybertruck's going to fall into the same exact equation. Probably not early days because people are just going to buy every Cybertruck that gets made, but maybe into 2025, if the economic conditions don't soften up, they could have a little bit of trouble selling it. I don't think so, but they might. The economic conditions are also making it tougher for people to afford EVs because EVs are still $38,000 and more. They're still in that upper price bracket. So they're going to be disproportionately impacted by higher interest rates than the rest of the auto market, because everybody else in theory can still make cars. Like Toyota can still sell you a $28,000 Corolla or a $29,000 Prius in theory, if a dealer can get it to you, right? So I think we have to also view it through that lens, is that EVs are going to be disproportionately affected by higher interest rates because they haven't made it as a whole down the cost curve yet. But I think once they really start making it down the cost curve with the release of the compact car from Tesla, with the release of a cheaper car from Volvo, and hopefully Ford and GM, it doesn't look like they're going to get there, but hopefully they will, with VW going down the cost curve, then the conditions will change. And then as interest rates hopefully return back to maybe 3% instead of 5.5% or wherever we're at now, maybe the conditions will soften up more for EVs to take off. But we'll see.